There is about 152 paintings in Terraria, and I'm about to tell you all of them. So grab a snack, get comfy, and get ready to see what all 152 paintings look like. Oh, and my personal favorite might shock you. This will be funnier later. Well, probably not. Whatever. One thing that I would like to mention is I will also tell you how to get them. And strangely enough, it has something to do with the moon phases. Now, there's a couple of ways for me to explain moon phases. First, if you have a sextant, which is given from the Angular NPC whenever you do fishing quests, then it can actually give you information on what moon phase you are on. And also, the way that it works is it just cycles, starting from 0 going up to 7. It's going to be the full moon will be your first moon, and it's going to be actually counted as phase 0. Then you have the waning gibbous, which is going to be phase 1. Then you have a third quarter, which is going to be phase 2. I know that's kind of confusing. Then you have a waning crescent, that is going to be phase 3. Then you have a new moon, which is going to be phase 4. Something important about the new moon is that's the only time that the blood moon cannot occur. I know that's kind of just some side information you probably don't care about. Then you have the waxing crescent, which is going to be phase 5. Then you have your first quarter, which is going to be phase 6. Then you have the waxing gibbous, which is going to be phase 7. Alright, I hope that was good information for you. If you don't understand that, just go rewind maybe like a minute. And also, shout out so much to Tutinte. I hope that's how you pronounce that. If you guys want to get in contact with me, I have a Discord. That's going to be down in the description. I promise that it's not going to be a sketchy link. Wink, wink. Wink. Okay, anyways, really appreciate it. This is some art that he made for me, and yeah, he just has a great idea. Now, first we're going to start off with the golfer. But there's something I want to tell you real quick. The most that you need for any painting is going to be 10 gold, and the least you need is about 50 to 20 silver, okay? So you don't really need that much. Anyways, let's get into it. The golfer has the rolling greens, which is the landscape of a golf course, and this is sold during moon phases 1 and 2 when the player has a golf score above 2,000. Of course, the way you get golf score is by playing holes. Now for the next 3, you also need a golf score above 2,000. Let's just get into it. The study of a ball at rest is going to be our next picture, which I can make a lot of jokes about studying balls at rest, but let's just not and keep it PG-13, you know what I mean? Sold during moon phases 3 and 4, and it's funny because the next one is going to be 4, F-O-R-E, of course, not F-O-R or F-U-R. It's just 4, which is a term, of course, used whenever you're golfing. I'm not going to overcomplicate that. It's sold during moon phases 5 and 6. The next one is going to be the duplicity of reflection, which duplicity is quite a big word. It's kind of a stupid painting. I don't really like it. It says that it's a parody of the Treasury of Images by Rene Magritte, a famous 1929 painting of a pipe with a caption that states, "This is not a pipe," in French. The painting tooltip states that this is not a golf club, also in French. And it's sold during moon phases 7 and 8. So of course it's just making a joke. I will show that picture up. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted. Now what I'm gonna do is actually showing some paintings on the internet or whatever. If you don't give credit to the person, which I did, you can still get copyrighted for that because that is how paintings will work. So what I'm gonna do is just show you a picture of basically what it is. Now, something that I forgot to tell you is the tooltips are almost all the same, but it's V Costa Muera, and basically that's the person who made all of the paintings, right? You also have, for the duplicity of reflection, Cien es pas un club de golf is another tooltip, and basically that is just who they took inspiration from to make that painting. Anyways, let's move on to the painter, right? You have the cold waters and the white land. Now something interesting is all of these should be sold for 1 gold, and you can sell them back to the painter for about 20 silver. And like I said previously, the tooltip will on all of these is just going to be V Costa Muera. I'll tell you if it's different, but chances are it's not going to be. Then you have the painting's basically just a landscape of the snow biome, sold when painter is in a snow biome. Alright? Then you have daylight, which is a landscape of a forest, and it's always available. You have The Dead Land Comes Alive, which is a landscape of the Crimson, and it's sold when the painter is in the Crimson biome. I know, how crazy is that? You have Do Not Step on the Grass, which is a landscape of the jungle, and it's sold when painter is in a jungle biome. Then you have Evil Presence, which is this eyeball looking thing. It's the Eye of Cthulhu, and it's sold during a blood moon. Then you have First Encounter, which is just a picture of a green slime, and it's sold during moon phases 1 and 2. Then you have Good Morning, which is a sunflower, sold during moon phases 3 and 4. I don't think it provides any other thing. Like, it'd probably be a little bit more useful to actually have a sunflower, because those actually give you a buff. The Land of Deceiving Looks, which is the landscape of the Hollow, sold when the painter is in a hollow biome. And then you have the Lightless Chasms, which is the landscape of the Corruption, and it's sold when the painter is in a Corruption biome. Then you have Places Above the Clouds, and it's a landscape of floating islands, and it's sold when the painter is in space. Then you have Secret of Sands, it's landscape of the desert with an underground pyramid, and it's sold when the painter is in a desert biome. Then you have the Sky Guardian, which is a wyvern, and it's sold when the painter is in space during hard mode. Then you have Through the Window, which is forest, trees, and bushes dropped in fog, and it's sold during moon phases 7 and 8. Then you have a picture of a life crystal. This one's called the Underground Reward. It's sold during moon phases 5 and 6. Then you have Purity, and it's a grassy plain, mountains, and a tree in the background with a bunny in the foreground. And it's sold when the painter is in a forest biome. Then you have Thunderbolt, which is my personal favorite because it looks so cool. And this one's actually by C. Garmin, and the last one actually had a different one, which is JTKJEXRUD. Then you have a painter in a graveyard. This actually will sell you different paintings, other than him just being in all those other places. The first one that we'll be talking about is Nevermore, which is a raven perched on a tree branch. This name is a reference to The Raven, an 1845 poem by Edgar Allan Poe. If you don't know who Edgar Allan Poe is, then we're gonna have to have it shot. It's promptly featuring a talking raven that continually repeats the phrase nevermore. It's a pretty solid poem, to be honest. There's a bunch of people who have done remakes with it, right? You could look up the Simpson one if you want to watch Simpsons. I love the Simpsons. Don't know how to include that. You have Reborn, which is going to be the next one, and it's a hand raising from the ground. On top of that, real quick, I forgot to tell you guys, all these are sold for 1 gold, and you can sell them back to him for 20 silver. They also all have the same tooltip, which is just V Costa Muera. Then you have the Graveyard, which is a landscape of graveyard. I know, crazy. Then you have Ghost Manifestation, which is based on a movie poster from The Poltergeist. It's a classic 1982 horror film, and it's just a blue picture. Then you have Hail to the King, which is based on a movie poster from 1992, a horror comedy film. Army of Darkness, with Redigit and Cynics taking the place of the characters. The name references a quote made by protagonist Ash Williams at the end of the film. Then you have The Wicked Undead, which is actually pretty, I don't want to say scary because it's not scary, but it's like one of the more scarier ones that I've seen in Terraria, right? Terraria is a very happy, fun game. Based on the movie poster from Evil Dead 2, it's a classic 1982 horror film. Then you have The Blood Goblet, which is a goblet filled with blood, which appears to be spilling outside of the painting's frame, which is absolutely super cool. Then you have Still Life, which is a typical still life painting of a bowl of fruit besides a skull. Next we have paintings sold by the princess. Now these are actually going to cost you a little bit more, being over 10 gold if you want to buy them, and it's only going to give you 2 gold back whenever you sell them. They also have different tooltips, but we'll get into that later, right? First we have Princess 64, and it's just a large castle with pink roofing next to a river with an arch bridge and a direct reference to Peach's castle, as it appears in Super Mario 64, hence where it gets the name Princess 64. The painting may also reference the castle appearance across several other games in the Mario franchise. And the tooltip is J. Hayes. Now, the next two are also from J. Hayes. And the next one that we're going to be talking about is the painting of Alas, a portrait of the princess. Then you have Dark Side of the Hollow, which is a funny picture to say the least. It's also has the tooltip of J. Hayes, and it's a rainbow shining from a unicorn's horn, a reference to a popular diagram of white light splitting into a rainbow after passing through a clear prism. With painting's name and said diagram, it's referencing the Dark Side of the Moon, the 8th studio album by the English rock band Pink Floyd. Now, if you don't know who Pink Floyd is, then we're gonna have a problem and you need to look him up stat. Then we have Princess Style, which is not J. Hayes this time, instead is Yora Omir. I hope I said that right. It's a stylist brushing the hair of the princess. Maybe there's something going on there, huh? Anyways, the next painting is going to be Suspiciously Sparkly, which is a painting of the gelatin crystal. The gelatin crystal is the way that you summon in the Queen Slime. And this tooltip is actually going to be by B. Hook. Then you have the Terrablade Chronicles, which is going to be the Sea Germanin, or Gremlin, I don't even know how to say it, Gremlin. Then you have a painting of the Terrorblade embedded in a field of grass. This is referencing the title screen and cover art of the first Exxon Blade Chronicles game. Then you have the Royal Romance, which it's by V. Costa Muera, or at least that's a tooltip, and it's a painting of the Slime Princess and Slime Prince together. Only sold after both the King Slime and the Queen Slime have been defeated in the current world. Next, you have a very special painting, and it's from the Clother. It's sold for 1 gold, and you can sell it back to the Clover for 20 silver. The name is Our Terraria. I actually know a little bit of history on this, but I won't go into too much detail. The Terraria community is the tooltip, and it's a part of the Terraria themed area from Our Place 2022. Next, we're going to start off with the Traveling Merchant. Now, real quick, I will tell you when the prices do change. We're going to start at 50 silver to buy it and 10 silver to sell it. We have Cargo Summon, which is a painting of a streamer and YouTuber, Cargo. It's Kargoh. I hope I'm saying that right. The tooltip is J. Doppler. Then you have Benny Warhol, which is a poster of a golden bunny, a regular bunny, corrupt bunny, and a vicious bunny in the style of Andy Warhol. The art of the 4 bunnies also resembles the icon of 4 difficult options in the world creation setting menu and the enemy difficulty slider in journey mode, which also use bunny variants as visual indicators for differing difficulty models. And the tooltip is going to be U1, which is one we haven't seen yet, so this is our first. Then you have Duality, which is a dark shard and a light shard together, forming the symbol of yin and yang, while featuring a similar dichromatic background and frame. This one is going to have the tooltip of TT Shabak or something. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. And this is also sold for, 50 silver, 10 silver if you want to sell it back to the person. Then Parsec Pals, which is a reference to Pedguin and Boba of Yoga Cast Live. I have no idea what any of those words are. This one is by Bewitch. If you guys know what Pedguin and Boba of Yoga's Cast Live is, then please tell me. Next is Acorns, which is a red bulb hanging from a tree, a reference to Charlie Brown Christmas, a 1965 animated television special based on Peanuts. Has a chance to be sold after completing the Frost Legion event in the current world. And this one is by J. Hayes. Then you have Cheesy Pizza poster, and it's a poster of a female hoplite wearing an apron in front of a pizza, a reference of the YouTuber Cheesy Panini, who built a store near a marble cave where Hoplite spawns, and a Let's Play series, specifically the 5th episode. That's really cool. And this is also by C. Panini. Then you have the Do Not Eat the Vile Mushroom
which is two players wearing a bucket looking at a vile mushroom, reference to the Terraria newbie mishmaps series by the artist Suiki. And this one's by S. Gutierrez. I hope I said that right. Then you have Cold Snap, a portrait of the Ice Queen attacking. It has a chance to be sold after completing the Frost Legion event in the current world. And it's also has the J-tip J Hayes. The next couple will have the same tooltip. You have Curse Santa, which is a portrait of a skeleton dressed up as Santa Claus. And it has a chance to be sold after completing the Frost Legion event in the current world. Then you have The Season, which is also by J. Hayes. It's a snowy landscape with a green present, a candy cane, and a large Christmas tree in the background. And it also has a chance to be sold after completing the Frost Legion event in the current world. Then you have Snowfellows, which is a parody to the movie poster from Goodfellas, a classic 1990 crime film featuring snowmen. Has a chance to be sold during completing the First Legion event in the current world. Then you have Sunshine of Israponi, which is a reference to the Yoga Cast series, Sunshine of Israponi. That's funny, it's the same name. It's not J. Hayes that has done this one, but actually it's Bewitch. I don't know, this one's kind of goofy. Then you have Yum the Blue Tiger, which is the persona of Marcus 101RR. And this one is by M. Collar. Okay, that's funny, Collar. Then you have The Bereaved, and it's a portrait of Wendy from Do Not Starve together, because Terraria did do a collab with Do Not Starve together. It has an increased chance to be sold in the Constant Secret Seed. It's also by J.C. Lee, adapted by J.T. KJEXRUD. And these are ones that are going to be sold for 1 gold. Now the next 3 are going to be the exact same as The Bereaved. It's going to be the Firestarter, except this is a different picture. It's just a portrait of Willow from Do Not Starve together. Then you have The Gentleman Scientist, which is a portrait of Wilson from Don't Starve together. Then The Strongman, which is a portrait of Wolfgang from Don't Starve together. Then you have Castle Marsburg, which is by J. Hayes. It's sold for 20 gold. 20 gold is a lot. What I meant was 2 gold, and you can sell it back to the person for 40 silver. It's a parody of Wolfenstein 3D title screen from 1992, featuring the player wearing meteor armor and wielding a space gun with a ray gunner in the background. The name of the painting itself might be a reference to another Wolfenstein game, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and it has a chance to be sold after completing the Martian Madness event in the current world. You have Marty Lisa. It's Martian Lisa, or I don't even know how to pronounce that. That's so goofy. Didn't even know that was a thing. It's a parody of the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, featuring a Martian on Mars with several flying saucers in the background. Has the chance to be sold after completing the Martian Madness event in the current world. Then you have The Truth Is Up There, a Martian saucer abducting a bunny. The name is a parody of the X-Files tagline, The Truth Is Out There. It is also a slightly different and pixelated version of the Tinfoil Hater achievement. Has a chance to be sold after completing the Martian Madness event in the current world. These are all by J. Hayes, by the way. Then you have Moon Man, a company, the Lunatic Cultist, alongside the Moon Lord and 4 glowing planets, corresponding to the colors of the celestial pillars. It has a chance to be sold after defeating the Moon Lord, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, this actually might have something to do with the lore. If anybody wants to look into that, they're a big lore guy, take a look at the Moon Man and Company, because this one actually, I mean, it's there's not too much there, but when you think about it, 4 pillars, there's 4 worlds. What does that mean, for the Terraria lore? Sorry, that's totally a side tangent. Not a Kid Nor a Squid, which is a portrait of the Moon Lord. The name is a reference to a Splatoon commercial. Has a chance to be sold after defeating the Moon Lord. Oh, and by the way, Moon Man and Company is by A. Dale, and it's sold for 3 gold, and you can resell it for 60 silver. Not a Kid Nor a Squid is by V. Costa Muera. It's sold for 4 gold, and you can resell it for 60 silver. Moving on to the truffle, you have My Son. This is, oh my gosh, this might be the cutest picture out of all of them, and it is by J. Parker III. It's a portrait of a baby truffle. You can buy it for 1 gold, and you can sell it back to him for 20 silver. Then you have a picture from the zoologist, which is the werewolf. It looks kind of like a werewolf. It's a werewolf sold during the full moon at night, and the tooltip is B hook. It's bought for 1 gold, sold for 20 silver. You have the desert underground cabins, and this is kind of where you find some of these paintings. They're hard to find, and some of them don't even have them, but just be careful out there whenever you're looking, don't die. Andrew Sphinx, its tooltip is U1, and it's restored. I don't know what restored means, but it's possible that there's multiple of them. I don't think there is, though. I don't know. It's a pun on Terraria lead developer Andrew Sphinx's name, featuring the Great Sphinx of Giza wearing Andrew's signature green hat. This is sold for 10 silver whenever you sell it back to somebody. You have the Watchful Antlion, and it's an antlion with a cactus in the background. Maybe reference to Dune. I think it is. And it's by Jay Witzig, and it's restored again. Then you have Burning Sprite, or Spirit. I never know how to pronounce the two. It's a Dale, and it's the Desert Spirit in Darkness. You have Jaws of Death, which is by C. Schneider. It's an antlion seen from above. Then you have the Sand of Slimes, a sand slime emerging from a broken hourglass. The name is a reference to the classic expression, sands of time, correlating to the passage of time in the same way sand drains from an hourglass. This one's by C. Rohde. I don't really know how to pronounce that. It's Rohde again. Snakes. I Hate Snakes. It's by X. Calder. X. Calder, I think is what I'm going to pronounce it as. It's a dark laminate painting name as a reference to the catchphrase spoken often by a titular character from the classic Indiana Jones film franchise. I have heard this before, and this has brought me back to my 5-year-old self. You guys don't understand. I don't think I've ever heard snakes. I hate snakes. And there's like a pit of snakes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Another side tangent. It's like 12 in the morning. Let's move on. You have Life Above the Sand, which is by A. Dale, and it's a It's a panorama shot of the desert canyons. Good lord, I do need some sleep. Oasis, it's a J. Steerling, an oasis landscape surrounded by dunes. I think it should be called Mirage, but whatever. You have Prehistoric Preserved. It's Unearthed by C. Schneider, a stone tablet featuring fossils of 2 ammonites and what appears to be a Pterosaurus without its wings. Okay, why is the P silent? A Pterosaurus. Pterosaurus. I don't know. Pterosaur. But if you know what that means, you know what that means. An ancient tablet, which is also unearthed by C. Schneider. A sandstone tablet and thatched with pictograms in a style of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. You have Uluru, Uluru. It's by S. Poirier, a photograph of the Uluru, also known as the Ayers Rock, a natural landmark in Austrian outback, or Austrian or whatever. The Visiting of the Pyramids, it's by J. Parker III. It's a tourist photo style depiction of the traveling merchant with sunglasses posing near a pyramid with the sun in the background, also wearing sunglasses. I can skepticalize that this is the pyramids. I also think that this is a pretty funny picture because the sun has sunglasses on. You have the Bandage Boy, which is a mummy coming out of the sarcophagus, and it's by C. Schneider. Then you have the Divine Eye, which is also by C. Schneider, and it's an interpretation of the Eye of Providence, or the all-seeing Eye of God, over a desert. A version of the eye is commonly depicted of the US $1 bill. Moving on to the underground cabins, like other ones, you have A Horrible Night for Alchemy, which is by W. Black, and it's a set of 3 potions on a shelf as the night of a blood moon is shown from a window. The potion left to right resembles a love potion, regeneration potion, and swiftness potion. The name is a play on a horrible night for a curse, directly inspired by an in-game quote from Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, for whenever nighttime begins. Then you have an American Explosion, a portrait of the demolitionist, possibly a parody of American Gothic. I personally think it's more of an American Psycho. I don't know though, that's just, personal, Then you have Aurora Borealis, which is by JT, and the last one was AG Kolf. We're just gonna call him this guy JT for the Aurora Borealis because I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and it's a painting of the Aurora Borealis and the Northern Lights, right? You have Bitfrost, which is also by JT. Oh, and another thing, all of these will be sold for 10 silver. And so, yeah, you can always sell them back to, well, you don't ever buy them from anybody, but you can always sell them for, 10 silver. All right, the Bitfrost, the Rainbow Bridge from Norse mythology, or if you've ever seen Thor, you know that Rainbow Bridge. You also have Bioluminescence, which is going to be the next one. It's by Jay Witzig. It's a painting of a glowing mushroom biome with a burrowing truffle worm. The term bioluminescence refers to the phenomenon where, living organisms naturally emit light as glowing mushrooms do. The Cat Sword, by A Sphinx. The Meowmere stuck in the ground at night. You got Chrono Devours His Lunch, which is by W. Garner, a parody of Saturn Devours His Sun, by Francis Gayo. Chrono is one of the Terraria sprite artists. Discover, which is by JT, a player wearing gold armor spotting a floating island. Which, honestly, it kind of looks like a cat, but, gold armor. Who knows? I don't know how they get these details. Father of Someone. This is by V. Costa Moguero, a parody of The Son of Man by Reina Margarita, featuring a man who appears to be the merchant. Then you have Fairy Guides, which is just the 3 fairies, one of each color. It is by C. Garmanian, or Garment, I don't know. You have Finding Gold by JT, an iron pickaxe, and a nugget of gold ore. You have the Forest Troll, which is also by JT. It's a forest troll, which don't really exist, but it looks kind of cool. You have Glorious Night by MJ Duncan. The moon and stars over a grassy hill is what it is. You have Happy Little Trees, which it's just a happy little tree. It's by J. Parker the 11th in memory of R.N. Ross, a painting of a tree, name and tooltip reference of painting Bob Ross, because it's a happy little tree, who would often say the phrase like happy little tree, paint a nice sky and slap the devil out of it, as he was painting them on his show, The Joy of Painting. That kind of took a turn. Next you have the Heartlands. This one's JT, and it's a panorama of an above-ground jungle. The next one is going to be Guide Picasso. This is by V. Costa Muera, the guide painted in the art style of Pablo Picasso. Then you have Land, which is by JT. 3 trees, 1 fully grown, and 2 sprouting in a forest. Then you have The Merchant, which is by W. Garner, parody of Leonardo da Vinci's self-portrait featuring the merchant. Then you have Morning Hunt, which is also by JT. It's a painting of the snow biome. We have seen multiple of those. Then you have the Nurse Lisa. W. Garner is who made that, and it's a parody of the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, featuring the nurse. You have Old Miner, which is by JT, and it's a person learning on a pickaxe. Leaning, not learning. Then you have The Outcast, which is by S. Poirier, Celtic warrior holding up a sword. Celtic. I don't know where I got Celtic. Yeah, I'm really American. Then you have Rare Enchantment, which is, this is kind of a cool one. It's by D. Phelps. It's a portrait of Tim wielding a chaos ball. Then you have Secrets, which is by JT, and I have no idea what that is. It's a secret, guys. Then you have Strange Dead Fellows, which is by J. Parker, a portrait of an undead miner. Then you have The Strange Growth, which is actually all 4 strange paintings. They're pretty strange paintings. They're made by S. Grimson Smith, and they're painting of a strange plant. There are 4 variations of this plant, and there are 4 variations of this painting, one of which is chosen to display at random. When placed, the style can be changed by removing and placing the painting again. And this is actually really cool. if you have ever played Minecraft and you like made a painting and you set it over, like you set it on something, it like every time you set it down, it could change the art that is displayed, which I think is cool. This is kind of like that thing. Then you have the sufficiently advanced. It's the person who made this one is M User. I feel like that is a strange name to have. A player with a white beard, wearing a robe and a dyed blue wizard hat, firing a space gun. The name is a reference to the Arthur C. Clarke quote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishably from magic." Holy cow, indistinguishably. Yeah, I don't know, guys. And then you have Sunflowers, which is based on Sunflowers by Da Vinci Van Gogh. This one's by W. Garner. Then you have Terraria Gothic, which is by W. Garner. It's a parody of American Gothic by Grant Wood, featuring the merchandise and the Gunland Tinkerer merchandise mechanics. So sorry, guys. You have Waldo. We don't know who made this one. Waldo? From Where's Waldo? The painting is rare than most other underground cabin paintings, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, Waldo is much rarer than the other paintings, as I said, and this is because there is about a 32.5 chance for there to be a 2x3 painting, and out of all of the 2x3 paintings, there's only a 49% chance that it would be a Waldo painting. Combining these two percentages, there would only be about 0.16% chance for a painting to be Waldo. Now, if you really think about this, this makes it extremely rare because you have to create multiple worlds in order to find this. Of course, this also means that at some point, you will be able to find the Where's the Waldo, right? Instead of some other spawns like the Slime Staff, which has a 0.01% chance, if I'm not mistaken, and meaning it's like a 1 out of 1,000. You guys didn't come here to talk about slimes. Let's continue with the paintings. We have Wildflowers, which is by C. Germanian. It's Germanian. I've been saying Gremlin, German. I think it's Germanian. Anyways, it's a painting of some flowers. It looks like there's a couple of tulips and other flowers like that. Next is gonna be a Viking Voyage. It's by JT, a long ship typically used by Vikings, passing by an iceberg and a frozen sea. How cool. Next we'll be moving on to the dungeon, and all of these will also be sold for only 10 silver if you were to sell them back. Also, a lot of these are by W. Gardner, but I'll tell you whenever it changes, okay? You got the dungeon Blood Moon Rising. It's the night of a blood moon. They could possibly be a parody of the Blue Moon Rising by Simon R. Green. Then you have Bone Wrap, which is also by W. Garner. It's a various different types of bones laid atop a sheet of purple silk. You have The Creation of the Guide, and this is a parody of The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo's, and it's featuring the guide. Also, you have The Cursed Man, which is a portrait of the old man. I would like to comment on The Creation of the Guide, actually, that maybe this has something to do with the lore, if anybody else wants to look into that, but probably not. Then you have The Destroyer, which is by R. Mosdijk. It's R-M-O-S-D-I-J-K. A player in Adamantite battling the Destroyer. Also, if I say R. Moose, just know that's who I'm talking about, okay? Then you have the Dryad's Crew, or Dryadesque. That's totally how you say that. This one's by W. Garner. It's a parody of Grand Obelisk by Jean Augusta Dominic Ingores. I don't know. It's featuring the Dryad. That's a pretty hard name, I'm not gonna lie. Then you have The Eyes Seen the End, which is also by W. Garner. It's a player in silver armor battling the Eye of Cthulhu. You got Facing the Cerebral Mastermind by A.G. Kolf, a player in gold armor confronting the brain of Cthulhu and its second phase. You got Glory of the Fire, which is by W. Garner. It's 2 ruined houses surrounding by lava. Then you got Goblins Playing Poker. It's a parody of Dogs Playing Poker by Cassius Marcellus Coolidge. featuring a group of goblins. You got the Great Wave. This one's by V. Costa Muera, a figure outpacing a large wave while riding on a shark. Based on the Great Wave off Kanagawa by Hoku Sawa. I really know I'm butchering all these names. The Guardian's Gaze, it's by A.G. Kolf, a portrait of Skeletron. Or maybe, hear me out, maybe this is a portrait of the Dungeon Guardian, because it's the Guardian's Gaze. I don't know, it's up to everybody else's interpretation. Then you have the Hanged Man, which is by W. Garner, a unknown figure hanging on a tree. How sad. Then you have The Impact by K. Wright, a painting of the Hollow and the Crimson colliding. You have The Persistence of Eyes by V. Casamera, the parody of Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dela, featuring melting eyes in place of pocket watches. Then you have Powered by Birds by C.J. Ness, a bird on a stationary bike powering a Tesla coil, nod to bird engines. Then you have The Screamer by V. Costamuera, a parody of The Scream by Eduardo Munch, featuring a face monster. Then you have Skellington J. Skellingsworth by W. Garner, a portrait of a skull. The name is a reference to Jack Skellington from 1993 stop-motion fantasy film The Nightmare Before Christmas. Love that movie. Or film, I guess you could call it. Then you have Sparky, Vicasta Muera, in loving memory. It's an honorary portrait of Sparky Doo, which is Redigit and Synex's deceased pet dog. How sad. But also, it's nice that they, put it in the game. That's very cute. Something Evil is Watching You. Our Moose, the Eye of Cthulhu, watching a player wearing silver armor. The Starry Night, Vicasa Muera, based on The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Then you have Trio Superheroes by C. Zeke. It's superhero SQ costumes based on the guide, merchant, and nurse design and color palettes. Then you have The Twins Have Awoken by R. Moose, a player in a hollowed armor encountering the twins. Then you have Unicorn Crossing the Hollows by V. Castamuera, a parody of Napoleon's Crossing the Alps by Jacques Louis David, featuring the party girl riding on a unicorn in the hollow. Remnant of Devotion, the lunatic cultist, and for less cultists, not found placed on a dungeon wall, but instead has a 1 in 2 50% chance to be found in a biome chest. That's pretty cool. Then this one's also by C. Rohde, Rohde. I hope I pronounced that right. Then you have The Underworld. This is going to be The Dark Soul Reaper by JT. It's a portrait of Flaming Reaper. Then you have Darkness. This isn't really by anybody. The back of a Yu-Gi-Oh card is what it is, though. So I guess whoever made the back of a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's kind of funny, to be honest. You have Demon's Eye, which is by JT. It's a portrait of a demon's eye. You have Flowing Magma by A. Craig. It's the landscape of the underworld. You have Hand Earth. It's JT. Hand reaching out from the ground, maybe based on the cover of the album System of a Down. You have Imp Face. This is also by JT. It's a portrait of a fire imp's face. Oh, and real quick, all of these can be sold for 10 silver. Anyways, moving on, you have Lake of Fire by W. Garner, an unidentified figure falling into the pool of lava underneath the forest biome. I assume this is the guide. Living Gore, A. Craig is the one that made this, and it's a portrait of the wall flesh, except kind of flipped on the way it should be going, to be honest. I hate that it's just like going left to right. It should be going up to down. Wait, down to up. And then you have A. Craig, a reaper flying over the landscape of the underworld. This one is called The Ominous Presence. You have The Shining Moon by A. Craig. It's a crescent moon and stars. Then you have Scalehead by JT. It's a portrait of a bone serpent's head. Wraithed in Fire. I can't read, you guys. Trapped Ghost by JT. An unhappy ghost trapped in limbo. How sad, right? Then you have Floating Island paintings
which are going to be Love is in the Trash slot, K. Tolinar, a parody of Love is in the Bin by Banksy, and featuring the shiny red balloon. See the World for What It Is, it's by C. Rohde, a painting some harpies, right? Then you have High Pitch by T.T. Shababik, a winged magical harp flying amongst the clouds. A Blessing from the Heavens by S. Grimson Smith, a falling meteor. Then you have The Eye of the Sun by C. Panini, an ornament emblemed similar to appearance of skyware furniture constructed from sun plates. You have Constellation by S. Grimson Smith, a constellation shaped like a bunny. Again, these are all sold for 10 silver. Then you have Fishing. You have The Dread of the Red Sea. Oh, and these next two will be sold for 10 silver. Is a painting of a dread nautilus. The two blood squids during blood moon obtained from fishing during a blood moon with extremely rare catch quality. Then you have Land of the Lake, which is a player wearing Synex's dress set, emerging from a lake, and bestowing the Meowmere to a player wearing red set in a small rowboat, a reference to the Arthurian legend of the Lady of the Lake, who bequeathed the Excalibur to King Arthur after his previous sword broke during a duel between him and an opposing king. I would like to mention real quick, and it's obtained from fishing in the hollow with extremely rare catch quality. I would like to mention real quick that I'm a big Adventure Time fan. That actually kind of reminds me of whenever Finn got a new sword. Sorry, I know that was super random, but the temple, you can get only one of them, and this is sold for 10 silver. It's The Lizard King by T. Murphy. I'm such a lizard, you don't even know my real name. The portrait of a lizard wearing a crown. The tooltip is a reference to a quote by Robert California from the 23rd episode in the 8th season of American mockumentary sitcom The Office, Turf War. Alright, and then you have, I love The Office, by the way. Then you have, guys, I have like 5 different pairs of The Office socks. That's how much I love it. I have a statue of The Office. I love it so much. Anyways, goodie bags. Now, first you're gonna start off with The Bitter Harvest by Jay Hayes, and it's a portrait of a green slime wearing a witch's hat next to a pumpkin, and it has a 37 out of 500 chance to being obtained from a goodie bag. These all have the same chance of being obtained from a goodie bag, but let's go on. Alright, The Blood Moon Countess. It's a vampire lady with red eyes and a cloak. This one's by Jay Hayes. Hallows Eve, a portrait of the mechanic's face at nighttime in a cornfield. Also by Jay Hayes. Jacking Skeletron. This is V. Costumware is the one that made it. And Skeletron hovering over the spiral hill from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Then you have Morbid Curiosity by Jay Hayes. A winged Skeletron. Amazing an eyeball. Examining so bad at reading. A reference to the famous scene in Act 5 of William Shakespeare's Hamlet, where the titular protagonist discovers the skull of Yorick, his former Count Jester. Alright, and again, these are all sold for about 10 silver. Then you have the Solar Eclipse paintings. You have the Wings of Evil. These are all also sold for 10 silver. You have the Wings of Evil, a painting of Mothron during a solar eclipse. It has a 1 out of 15 chance, meaning that's 6.67 chance of being dropped by Mothrons. Midnight Sun, which is by X Calder, and then the last one was by G. Grover. But anyways, X Calder, painting of the sun and moon seen during a solar eclipse, with a similar appearance to that of the sun to the Kill the Sun achievement. Then you have Buddies by T.T. Shababik, a painting of Frankenstein and Swamp Thing together. This has a 22% chance or a 1 out of 54 drop chance by either Frankensteins or Swamp Things. Then you have This Is Getting Out of Hand by C. Rowhead, painting of the possessed appearing to crawl out of frame. Has a 1 out of 60% chance of being dropped by the possessed, Painting of a Butcher. The name is a reference to the 2013 horror game, Amnesia, Merchant. Oh my gosh, A Machine for Pigs. A Machine for Terrarians is the name of this one. This has a 1.67% drop chance, and it is a 1 out of 60 chance of being dropped by the butchers. The person who wrote this one was Jay Witzig. Then you have Requiem by C. Road, a painting of a Reaper in Darkness, and it has a 1 out of 60% chance of being dropped by Reapers. Then you have Eyes-Head, a J. Parker III painting. It's a monochromatic, static-filled painting of an Iser wearing a suit, a reference to the 1977 horror film Eraserhead, and has a 1 out of 15 drop chance from dropping by Isers, or a 6.67 drop chance. Then you have the Eau Claire Resonance, or this is from the C. Oh my gosh, the person who made this is C. Rowhead. I don't know how to pronounce his name. That it's really hard. Painting is of an Iser firing a purple laser beam from its eye. This has a 1 out of 15% chance of dropping by the Isors. You have the Angler Quest Rewards, which are Not So Lost in Paradise by B. Hook. I don't think I've seen that name before. I have. I totally have. I lied. A beach scene with a pina colada, coconut, and pineapple on a table with a palm tree in the background. You have Pillaging Me Pixels. Oh, and these are all sold for 50 silver, by the way. Pillaging Me Pixels by Jay Harris, a portrait of a pirate ship from Pixel Piracy. And then you have Silent Fish, which is by J. Parker III. Legends say the batteries died ages ago. A reference to the Big Mouth Billy Bass. The other wall-mounted animatronic singing fish props. Love that thing. I had a friend that had one, and I would press it like every 5 seconds because it's funny. You have Couch Gag, which is by W. Spinks, and the painting, which hangs over the living room couch, The Simpsons. And so that's actually funny. You have the Duke. This one is quite intimidating. It's made by JT, and then, just JT. The painting of Duke Fishron up close. Then you have What Lurks Below, which is by C. Road, a painting of Duke Fishron just below the surface of the ocean. Then you have Fangs, which is by K. Tolinar, and it's based on the movie poster from 1975 thriller film classic Jaws, with the iconic shark replaced by Duke Fishron. And the very top, instead of it saying Jaws, it says Fangs. Then you have Crustography, which is by C. Road, and it's a painting of a crab holding a treasure map underwater. If you kill some crabs, you actually do get treasure maps. Last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was what the rarest painting is, right? And so the rarest painting that I've decided is going to have to be Waldo, with it coming in at a 0.049 or 16% chance actually of you finding this painting. However, I would like to give an honorable mention to a couple of the solar eclipse paintings, this being either the Buddies, only the Buddies, because it actually has a 0.22 chance of being dropped by Frankenstein and the Swamp Thing. Now these are very common enemies, and so that might be something that you're thinking, right? However, I can't find anything saying how common it is to spawn them in, so I'm not actually able to tell you the exact amount. Also, the reason why this one is so rare is because you have to add on, you can totally summon in the solar eclipse like through using the like little thing that you summon in with, right? I forgot what it's called, the tablet eclipse or whatever, and you can summon in that way. However, it does actually only have a 5% natural chance of spawning in, and that is also why I feel like that this is quite rare whenever you take that into consideration. You also have any of the goodie bag ones, because this is a 74% chance of it being obtained from a goodie bag, and then it's also a 1.5% chance of you getting a goodie bag. Now, I don't know if their 7.4 chance is, it includes, this information I got off of wiki.gg. They have some of the best information ever.
But this information, I'm just not sure if they included that 1.5 of you getting it. It also has to be during a Halloween event, right? So, I mean, it has like a specific event for it to be that it has to be around. So, other than that though, I have to say that the goodie bags, the Buddies solar eclipse painting, or Waldo will be the rarest. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. Also, thank you so much for watching. This is definitely my longest video to date, and yeah, I really appreciate it. It's gonna be a hell of a ride editing this, and it is currently like 2 in the morning. So thank you. Have a good night.